Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. In today's video I'm going to be ranking all the villains of LAIKA, stop motion animation legends and masters of children's horror. Let's begin. Lord Piggott Dunsby from Missing Link. When the eccentric monster hunter Sir Lionel Frost makes a wager that he can bring proof of a Sasquatch to Lord Piggott Dunsby, head of an elite adventuring club that Frost wants to join, the Lord becomes determined to stop Frost's trail to protect his club's reputation. Piggott Dunsby loves to paint himself as this brave, courageous adventurer, but it's obvious that he only travels to hunt rare animals or colonize small cultures. He has no real interest in learning about the world around him. I do actually kind of appreciate him as a cartoony caricature of the British upper class, because it's a spot-on parody.
We've butchered the ungodly and brought good British table manners to savages the world over.
He can certainly be a threatening fellow too, with his short temper and disturbing attachment to his rifle, but here's the thing, he spends most of the film's running time growling orders from a lavish armchair or a fancy carriage. Don't get me wrong, his directions show a knack for adapting to Lionel's tracks, and are always made with a big confidence.
Hire thugs, bribe the port authorities. As soon as that ship reaches dry land, we'll be waiting for them.
It's just, for the most part, that's all his character really gets to do as a villain, all while his hired assassin joins in on the action as a frequent face-to-face obstacle for our heroes. Sure, the Lord does eventually join his henchmen on the field as a legit threat, and it is satisfying seeing a now developed Lionel shrugging off the appeal of Piggott Dunsby's snobby club.
That's preposterous. Of course you want to be one of us. We are great men. We shape the world.
But this climactic hero versus villain scene is immediately cut short, thanks to the Lord's reckless stupidity.
Oh, bugger.
Look, I get that the film wants to show that he's just a childish, unhinged brat behind his pompous nobility, but this villain has been underused enough and could have really found his groove in the finale. I think the biggest reason I ranked him right at the bottom is that he's shockingly boring for a LAIKA baddie. This studio has given us so many scary and weird villains, but Missing Link's primary antagonist is just this generic around the world in 80 days knockoff. That's rather disappointing. Willard Stenck from Missing Link. Stenck is a hunter who has been assigned to make sure that Lionel and his Sasquatch, Susan, never reach civilization. I love the texture that's detailed around Willard as a character. His witty southern drawl, mysterious headscar, passion for taxiderming rare creatures, and infamous reputation all help to develop him into this compelling oddball.
If you think you can do better, Frost, you're out of your mind. You hear me? Larkin mad.
While his gun is his trademark weapon, I wouldn't say that it completely defines him. Heck, for a short stature guy, he's quite the fierce fighter and will use any part of his body to beat his opponents. Oh, and he's quick to adapt to using other weapons whenever he is disarmed. I like that there's a cloddishness to his combat skills too. It's his raw scrambling to win that humanizes him and adds personality to the way that he fights. To be honest, I prefer that kind of roughness to just seeing a perfect marksman who always makes his shot. So yeah, you can see why I prefer this guy way more than his plain as vanilla boss. Heck, once Piggott Dunsby is out of the picture, Stenck is the one that saves the finale from whimpering out by subtly making things very personal with Lionel, which inspires the most exciting part of the film, as Stenck immaturely puts his shallow pride before the dangling lives of Lionel and his friends. Every time I watch this scene, I am seriously stunned at how much complicated work must have gone into animating this cinematic action scene by hand. Oh, and I have to say that Willard has one of the most violent villain deaths in LAIKA's filmography. Like, yeesh. Archibald Snatcher from the Box Trolls. This scraggly man is desperate to be part of an elite club called the White Hats, who scoff down cheese while chatting politics. So Snatcher makes a deal with their leader, Lord Portly Rind. If our villain can eliminate every box troll from the town, then he'll be granted a white hat himself. Snatcher has a very clever knack for building up hate propaganda against every box troll. It's how he contrives value to his role as a troll catcher. Plus, to be fair, he does make for a menacing hunter of the night, as he maniacally drives around in his dodgy truck, joined by a troop of creepy minions, all while he sees straight through every box troll's disguise.
Look at all these boxes left lying about. How curious, how peculiar.
However, what's truly obnoxious is that he doesn't even see the trolls as possible threats, but rather weak pests and vermin that he can easily exterminate for a ticket to White Hathood, going as far as to use many captured box trolls for free labour to build the very machine that will help him to capture the rest of their own kind, all while the movie's hero's father, who has become very mentally ill, serves as a kidnapped tentacle advisor. How many layers of evil are in this scheme?
Won't get much out of him now, though. A decade hanging upside down, scrambled his noodles good.
There's also this weedy perfectingness to Snatcher too. I mean, he's allergic to cheese and not even that cultured, yet he makes his minions help him act out his very own White Hat meeting, where each henchman has to reluctantly play along, all while their boss delusionally pretends that his allergy isn't acting up. It's just plain very, very, very sad to watch.
Isn't this nice?
Chewing the cheddar with the big cheeses. Holding my own.
Side allergic reactions are quite intense too. They actually make Snatcher look like this imposing mutant monster, kinda reminiscent of the classic film Akira, though you could argue that this is rather unflattering for sensitive audiences with real life cheese allergies themselves. I'd actually say that Archie is at his most dominating when he ends up piloting a giant steampunk machine that he's been working on throughout the film. Suddenly this Weasley creepazoid commands strength and power, all thanks to the scale and threat of his new vehicle.
Methinks a deed of this magnitude deserves something a bit more significant.
Archibald also has an alter ego called Frou Frou, which he uses to promote troll hate through song and worm his way into the White Hats as a seductress. Sure, you can tell it's him. Plus, the White Hats mainly fall for his disguise because they're dumb and horny, but considering what Archie has to work with, it's a pretty impressive makeup and fashion job.
Little Miss Pop Divine, you shall play the sweet little baby trap show. Oof.
Sure, Snatcher isn't that high on my list, but I've grown to appreciate how much work went into making him a hate-worthy yet pitiful vaudevillian black comedy baddie.
Aromatic, oaky, with an undertone of a mother.
Judge Hopkins from Paranorman. When the supernaturally gifted Norman brings the dead of his town back to life, he ends up resurrecting Judge Hopkins, the official who sent a little girl called Agatha to death under the accusation of witchcraft. At first, the judge and his horde of zombies seem like a dangerous bunch out for brains, with the film using the zombie stereotype and misleading scenes to imply that these walking dead maybe mean violence.
Hurry, this way!
However, they're literally just old-timey people as phantoms. Even they're struggling with the situation at hand, traumatized by the decadence of modern culture and the threat of an angry mob that hates them. The judge even gets a few goofy moments to show how human he really is behind his rotting flesh, from being comically stuck to a car as it whizzes down the road, to a hilarious scene in which he has to awkwardly share a seat with Norman's family.
She wants you to move over. I heard that.
It's the harrowing flashback to Aggie's sentencing that really fleshes the judge out though, showing that when he was alive, he was a lot more dominating and commanding, but also immaturely driven by fear, panic and anger towards someone he didn't understand, acting no less hostile than the townspeople who were chasing him today.
Execution!
Norman very validly calls the judge's actions unforgivable. I mean, come on, he executed a bloody child. But Hopkins does show guilt and remorse in death. He and his community are haunted by what they did. They are not resting peacefully in their graves. There's also a fragile vulnerability to this judge's decayed state, made vivid and detailed through his deeply sensitive eyes and the tender voice of the late Bernard Hill.
Why did you do it?
We were scared
Of what?
of her.
Plus, being hunted by a mob helps him to see things through Aggie's eyes, in sort of an ironic punishment. Ending Aggie's curse will send these zombies to blissful slumber, but you can also tell that they want to make up for the atrocity that they committed. They do seek responsibility, so when Norman does help Aggie find peace eventually, the judge can fade away knowing that his victim is now free. The Sisters, from Kubo and the Two Strings. Kubo's aunts are a pair of unhinged twins who have the job of hunting our hero down for their father, the Moon King. They're a very creepy duo that bring an essence of trademark LAIKA horror to what's essentially an action-adventure film.
Come, Kubo. Come to your aunties. No reason to be afraid, Kubo.
You'll notice that they're both wearing masks, which sure are very unsettling to look at thanks to their uncanny designs, but they also speak volumes for who they are as characters. Children of a god who demands perfection and resents humanity. Underneath these spooky masks are daughters who are under great pressure to preserve the honor of their family of starbound gods, while avoiding the temptations of Earth, hence why their hearts are so cold.
I have crushed creatures who could fit this world on their fingernail. This victory brings me no honor.
They also both resent and grieve for Kubo's mother, who is now a monkey, because she left the family to pursue love with a human. It's kind of fascinating seeing villains expressing two conflicting emotions at once, while desperately trying to frame themselves as victims.
I remember how we looked up to you. Of all of us, you shone the brightest. Such a waste.
However, not an ounce of us is meant to feel sorry for either of them, because these are very sadistic women who take sick pleasure from hurting others, whether they're erasing memories through life-ruining curse spells, or murdering a child's parents right in front of him. These vicious twins are also incredibly skilled fighters too, both wielding their own distinct weapons of choice. They can be very aggressive, but their rage doesn't make them clumsy. Their technique is forceful, yet controlled and precise. On top of their impressive combat talent, they can also take flight, something they love to take advantage of. Oh, and they can also control the power of darkness itself, as they use shadows as a black magic attack against their opponents. Many kids are too young for Japanese horror films, but these sisters can be seen as a fantastic introduction to the kinds of villains you'd find in J-horror, both embodying the ghostly mystery and gothic macabre of the classic folklore legends that inspire cult J-horror cinema. The Moon King, from Kubo and the Two Strings. Kubo's grandfather is determined to remove his grandson's other eye, so that the boy can ascend to the heavens and leave behind his Earth. The Moon King first appears to Kubo in a dream, where he puts on a kindly old man act and sneakily sets Kubo up for a trap.
The last piece of the armor. It's here?
Follow the setting sun and you'll find it.
Then, after Kubo survives, the Moon King resorts to coercing Kubo into understanding his perspective. The problem for the Moon King is that his arguments are very flawed, and his grandson has matured over the film. Like, the Moon King insists that all of humanity is pure evil, blanketing every single human under the same umbrella. He despises them and refuses to see any good in them. Yet the Moon King himself is so evil that he half-blinded a baby, stole parents from a child, separated his own daughter from her true love, and has been pressuring his offspring to be perfect sculptures that represent his vain legacy. If anything, he represents the very worst of humanity. What's even more frustrating though, is that he won't even take responsibility for the severe pain he's caused, and desperately tries to frame the bruising of his fragile ego as the real crime.
They brought their fates upon themselves. They disgraced me and upset the order of everything.
The Moon King also brags how his immortality makes for a perfect existence, and that being blind helps him to see the truth, when really he's just enjoying the bliss of ignorance. Once the Moon King realizes that Kubo won't listen to him, he exposes himself as the monster he really is, giving us a refreshingly unique kind of creature design, as he transforms into what can only be described as a bioluminescent parasite. It's a very, very menacing form with a scowling expression, soulless eyes, and a dragon-like scale.
This is the end of your story. Now take one last look with that lonely eye.
In the end, the Moon King is defeated, but not in a traditional sense. After the fight, he loses all of his memories and turns mortal. This might seem like a strange conclusion for a villain, and sure, I personally think that he deserved an actual punishment, but it makes sense when you remember that this is a film about the art of storytelling, the value of seeing good in humanity, and the magic of memories. The Moon King's tale has been rewritten with a fresh new start, so that he can experience the compassionate side of humanity, create his own memories on Earth, and become the grandfather that Kubo needs after losing his parents.
You know, we have something in common. We both adore your grandson. His name is Kubo.
Agatha from Paranorman. The story of Aggie is so sad and bleak that I actually find it cruel classing her as a villain. This superpowered child with amazing abilities who was seen as a witch and put to death. Her execution sentencing being one of the hardest to watch scenes in animation history.
I didn't do anything wrong!
Execution, where you will be hanged by the neck until you be dead.
Oh, and it's extra cold how everyone has grown to see her as a burden. Not a victim of fear-mongering who needs love and sympathy, but an annoying spectre who needs to be read to sleep now and again to keep her quiet. However, she's let her hatred within consume her, turning her into this cynical bully who pushes people away, all while she lets her powers cause destruction and panic. She truly wants to hurt everyone around her so that they can feel her pain too, making her resemble the caricature that Hopkins and co framed her as.
You did something awful, but that doesn't mean you should too! All that's left of you now is mean and horrible! That's not true! Then stop! This is wrong and you know it!
When we first meet Agatha, she puts on this magic and light show, this character that lives up to a fabricated legend of a witch. But it's all a self-defense mechanism. Behind the dark green storm is a scared little girl who is wronged by the adults around her, her tale being a testament to the cruelty and malice of a more primitive time, when communities were so paranoid of witches that they abandoned their humanity under the guise of religious entitlement. Although that's not to say that Agatha makes for a harmless antagonist. No one's task of calming her down is wrought with danger, because Aggie is shockingly overpowered for a child. There's an almost godlike intensity to what she can do with her gifts, making Norman's mission a life or death quest. It's only when Norman speaks from the soul that he can reach the real Agatha Prendergast, a girl that he can emotionally relate to as a fellow supernaturally gifted child.
I think you're just a little kid with a really special gift, who only ever wanted people to understand her. So we're not all that different at all.
Aggie didn't need a bedtime story, she needed love and compassion. I mean, hearing her say this heart-splitting line kills me every time.
I just want my mommy.
The tragedy of Agatha is haunting and soul-crushing. Only LAIKA would be brave enough to tell a family film ghost story this harrowing, while also making us feel for said ghost demise. Of a Mother from Coraline. When young Coraline discovers a portal to another world, she meets her alternate universe parents, who seem lovely at first. But it turns out that her other mother is actually the mastermind of this world, and an evil creature known as the Beldam, who wants to replace Coraline's eyes with buttons. The other mother is introduced as this kindly lady, who gives off a warm and gentle aura. With the exception of her creepy button eyes, she seems like your typical loving parent.
I'm your other mother, silly. Now go tell your other father that supper's ready.
However, we as an audience get the sense that she and her world are too perfect. The parade of colourful presents and fairy tale setting are just too good to be true.
Mango milkshake?
The film doesn't exactly spell out what's happening though. It's just this constant unnerving feeling in the air, all while hints of red flags are peppered throughout each visit to this utopian fantasy. Something sinister is certainly happening here, but LAIKA cruelly keeps us in the dark. Then, when the other mother offers Coraline an eternity in this world in trade for having her eyes buttoned, that's when the cat is out of the bag, and we now know that this oh-so-sweet mum has twisted intentions.
We aren't worried at all, darling. Soon you'll see things our way.
However, in praise to LAIKA, we don't get a big exposition dump of info regarding the Beldam's legend or backstory. This thing simply just exists. A predatory boogie woman who creates dream worlds for her prey, and then snatches them away from their parents. Heck, that's one of the core principles of horror. Less is more. What we can't explain is inherently scary.
Coraline, you came back for us.
Mom!
Darling, why would you run away from me?
The more her real form starts to show, the more unsettling she is as a villainous presence. This spider-like creature, with faint remnants of the real mother that she's been imitating, who towers over Coraline as this gangly alien. Even in this deformed state, she still tries to keep up a maternal act, as she behaves eerily similar to real-life abusive mothers who have control issues and selfish motives.
You know I love you.
have a very funny way of showing it.
I was also deeply disturbed by the way that she treats her creations, sentient beings that she uses as a pawns to keep up her world's illusions, who aren't allowed to speak out against their creator. Oh, and if you do cross the other mother as a minion, you can bet that you'll face a shocking end for a kid's horror film.
Oh, Wybie. Evil witch!
The Other Mother was the first animated villain created by LAIKA, and in all truth, I don't think they've ever topped her. She pushes boundaries as a family movie antagonist, and is bound to crawl into your dreams at night.
You dare disobey your mother!
If you enjoyed this video, then please go and check out my other fun and exciting villain ranking videos. I've been Jambareeqi. Cheerio, folks.